Hey guys, this is Locke. Today I'm going to be talking about my class match strategy. Usually I talk about my strategy and what I'm doing and, the strengths and weaknesses and how to counter it and so on, within like the first day or so of class match. But this time I decided I would wait until the very end just to see how high I can rank, because usually what happens is when I explain my strategy, I usually meet people that have already watched my videos and know what I'm going to do and adapt their plan of attack accordingly, so I lose more often than I otherwise would. And like I've never came in the top 10 before. The highest I've received before was was rank 20, but before that usually I'm like in rank 100s or something like that. So anyway, I wanted to see. I hope I remain within top 10. I'm ranked number 5 right now, but we still have one more slot to go. Um, and I think like other people might catch up because everybody is within like 100 points of me. So we'll see. I hope I remain within top 10. But without further ado, let's get into my strategy. So this is my class match team that I've been using. It seems like a double quicken team, and I mean that is what I've called it. So it is a double quicken Garvell team. But let me first of all talk a little bit about what anybody that's aiming for like the top 10 in class match is trying to do. Basically, you're trying to create a strategy that would be able to take on any opponent, basically, right? Because like it's not good enough to have a strategy that can take on most. If you can take on like say 8 out of 10 teams, but you lose to two, you can't build a streak. And basically, like for example, the very top spot here, I think he's only lost. I don't think he's lost a game at all. Slot number two, Mako, he only lost once, I think. So like you lose very few times if you're trying to get into the top 10, and you have 40 matches. If you're losing like 2 out of 10 matches, you're losing 6 matches, and you're usually not in the top 10 anymore. So with this strategy, there is a very significant weakness. The weakness is that my Garvell cannot one-shot most level 120 units that are properly built, whereas every single level 120 unit that is built can one-shot my Garvell. That is the weakness of my strategy. And with a weakness like that, it's kind of hard to win many streaks. Um, so the reason for that, I explained in a previous video how quickening works, and there lies the problem. So if my Garvel can go 3 times in a row, for example, all of my enemies moved, and then he goes at the end, and then both quicken effects go after that, I have no problem. Yeah, sure. If I can't one shot them, I'll probably be able to 2 shot or 3 shot them. So that's okay. But the problem is, most of the time, my quicken charges go between my enemies, between when my enemies go. For example, maybe Garval might move and he will go up and he will use pulse and get close to the enemy. Then my enemy takes a turn and they'll one shot him. So I can't, even if I put double quicken on him, they will just like fizz because they won't go off. So that is the main problem. And so to combat that problem, I came up with a different strategy within the double quicken setup that would take on teams that have level 120 units. And as you can probably guess, I would see those teams quite often. But first of all, let me talk a little bit more about my setup. Now, I've talked already about double quicken and in my previous video, and why it's okay to leave speedcast on Shell and Niblu and still have both of them go off at 2 different ticks. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch the other video because I explained it in a lot more detail, and I don't want to repeat everything over. So for right now, just take my word for it that both of these go on 2 different ticks. Now, one thing that I did here was I removed, actually, let me go into this screen so it's easier to talk about. Most of the time when you see Garval, you see him with this passive because that adds so much stats. That adds 16 agility here, and it adds, well, compared to this, it adds 78 magic, and it adds a bunch of dexterity as well. Basically, it adds like I think 30% agility, 60% magic, and 60%, or sorry, 30%, one of the two. Like basically adds a whole bunch of agility, dexterity, and magic. And I chose not to use it. I chose, instead of using this skill, which gives so many inflated stats for 5 turns, usually I'm trying to end the match in 5 turns, right? Because with a double quicken, that's what I'm trying to do. However, I actually turned it off. I used this attack instead, not because I anticipated the match to go on longer than 5 of Garval's turns. It's because of the way quicken works. I actually need him to go just before Charles Quicken goes off. So what that means is if he has an agility of if he has an agility of 107, he might outspeed a lot of other units, right? Like he might outspeed a lot of Yunas and uh, yeah, a lot of Yunas, a lot of ice teams, like a lot of Gilgameshes, and so on and so on. He might outspeed them all, and so I get stuck in a very bad position because I will have to go forward and use his pulse ability, and then they get to take a move, and they'll probably kill him, and then Shell's quicken fizzles. So to prevent that, I purposefully reduced his agility by removing that skill. So now it went from 107 to 91. So basically, this gives me an advantage of everybody that has an agility that falls between 107 to 91. So that is quite a significant amount of agility. And so that gives me one advantage. The advantage it gives me is that I at least most of the time, like I would say like 90 to 95% of the time, I at least get to move him once and have one quicken go off right after I move him. Nivelu's quicken, that's a lot. That's totally different. There are a lot of units that are less than 91 agility that would go off before Nivelu's quicken go off. So that's still a problem. But at least I can meditate the front end of this. I can make sure that I at least get one quicken off. So that is really a lot of the discussion that I have to talk about regarding the setup. And just take a look at my cards. I have, this card which really only gives an effect to Garvall. The others don't really benefit from it. Shell doesn't even have a weapon. She just has three different shoes. So she's going to do like minuscule damage. Uh, Nivlu is surprising because now her card only gives an effect to Garvell. It increases his dark attack by 35, but she does get quite a bit of attack from it. She gets 164 attack just from holding this card. So that's pretty good. But I think overall you would agree that the way that I have the card set up, only Garvell really benefits from it. Okay, everyone benefits from the agility card, but in terms of like attacking stats, like Nivlu is not built to be very strong, and obviously Chell is only there just to quicken. Like she's not really doing anything else there. So with that, like keep that in mind, keep the cards in mind, because you will see that a lot of these games I won because of Nivlu, and I will talk about it when I'm giving examples. But this section is just dealing with the setup and why I made the decision to use these cards and these passives and so on and so on. Nivlu, I wanted to have the longest range. That's why I have concentrate. That should be pretty obvious. With Shell, I want her to have the highest agility, so I gave her T-Floor. Faith 70 or 97 really doesn't matter. I was too lazy to reduce it to 50 or 30, but actually I don't want it 30. But probably 50 Faith is probably enough. She's not doing any damage. Nivlu, yeah, again, 50 Faith is enough. I don't need more Faith than that. She doesn't really cast uh, any any like disable skills or anything because I don't have I don't use the sniper buff for the CM, not the sniper buff, the sniper sub job for the CM. So anyway, that is all for the setup. I will move on to showing you a couple of example matches, and while I'm doing that, I'll talk about what I do when I'm matched up against these teams that Garvall just cannot one-shot, and my Nivlu strategy that's baked into this. So my strategy when I was facing stronger units, where they're level 120 units that Garvall cannot one-shot and they can one-shot him, I had a very simple strategy. I was just going to sacrifice my Garvall to take out their quickeners because I am like 90% confident that my Nivlu with garbage VCs can take out any of my opponents that are unable to quicken and get over that ledge. If my opponents are using units that have like say jump 2, then I'm in a bit of trouble because they can easily get over this ledge. Like if they have like jump 2 move 4 or jump 2 move 5, then I'm in a lot of trouble. So that wouldn't work for something like that. But not too many people are using Ramza, for example, or units like that. A lot of people are using like Oron, Gilgamesh, Yuna. Those are units that can one-shot my Garvall. And so what I basically do is I would go with my Garvall and I would put him in a position to take out whatever quickener they're using, and then let him die because I don't need him anymore. Because you will see how difficult it is for them to advance when Nivlu is raining arrows like this. So anyway, take a look. So in this match, there is no quickeners, but just take a look and like pretend Sakura is a quickener, and I'll tell you why I'm pretending that Sakura is a quickener. Because usually quickeners are so easy to take out. When this match began, I was like, okay, this is a typical match where there's no quickeners, so I will probably just be playing hit and run with Garvall. I will attack, and then I will just move back because I can't really, like I can't damage him. Like, take a look. So this is typically how much damage I do to, uh, Yuna and other units. Like I cannot one shot him. And see, if I had attacked Yuna here, his Sakura would come and probably one shot my Garvell, and I can't do anything. And so this is what I mean by the quicken casts. Enemies interrupt that quicken cast, and I can't do anything in between. So if I had gone there to attack Yuna and I can't kill her, I would just die because Sakura would kill him. So I decided to retreat. I decided to play uh, a hit and run here. But when Sakura did this, I said, you know what? Let me just pretend that Sakura is a quicken unit and just go in for an attack anyway, because I know for sure that my Nivlu will be able to keep both the others at bay. So I decided to go for it, and this is why I'm pretending that she is a quicken unit, because this will never happen with an actual quicken unit, because an actual quicken unit will just die when I jamming thrust them. But I realized that if I stay here and jamming thrust Sakura, my Garvall is dead. But that's okay. And the reason I realized is dead is because Yuna will come and one shot him. But Sakura magic reflexes him. So the reason I decided to show this match is because even without my carry, and I'm 3 versus 2, where Shell does absolutely no damage, like she does 0 damage, my Nivlu is able to take on all 3 of them because of her debuffs. So one thing that I want to kind of point out with this my strategy, and also just like take a look at what's happening. Quicken is obviously very, very strong. That's indisputable. But if you are using units that have move 3, it's going to be impossible for you to catch up to rangers, and rangers are going to have such a huge advantage. So take a look at how much difficulty this guy has to reach Nivlu. He has such a huge advantage, and he can't get to Nivlu. Now you can say that for example, I'm using Chell to quicken Nivlu, and this is going to be an easy match, because I have a quickener and they don't. It's going to be easy. But imagine for a second that instead of using Shell, I'm using Federica. So it's Federica and Nivlu raining arrows down on you, and you can't use a quickener to come towards me. That's basically what I made happen by sacrificing my Garvall. Now here, I have to take 3 hits to attack Sakura, and I'm still gonna lose. Sorry, and I'm still gonna win. He's still gonna lose because it's just impossible for him to catch up to me. And the reason for that is because of Nivlu's skills like dispel, the dispel buff skill and the slow arrow skill. Those are the 2 skills that made this possible. Because so for example, a lot of people catch on that jump 1 units are really hard to get across this barrier. I have to either bring nimble movement, or I have to bring Ketone's TMR or something that gives me an additional jump. The thing is now, Nivlu has a skill that can dispel that buff. So you're thinking that you're going to bring Titus and you're going to use Ketone's TMR and have move 4 jump 2. Well, no, you're not, because Nivlu just dispels that, and you're stuck at move 3 jump 1, and 1 turn later you're stuck at move 2 jump 1 because she's going to use slow arrow, and it's just impossible. There's another video that I'm going to link to at the bottom where I lose both my Garvall and my Shell, and Nivlu is up against a Ilserel who has high missile resist that she does 300 damage, 300 damage at a time, and she slowly kills Elturel before Elturel is even able to touch Nivlu. And on top of that, Elturel also had a quickener that was quickening Elturel, and she still couldn't catch my Niblu. So that's what I want to highlight here. That um, although like a lot of people say, yeah, quicken is like very powerful, and it's too powerful, it should be banned. A double quicken is like such a cheap strategy. All right, if that's their point of view, that's fine. But also keep in mind that without quicken, there are a lot of units that are just going to be very hard to use. Um, there are units that are no problem with Quicken being banned. Obviously, Rangers are fine, but there are also other like speedy units, like move 4, move 5 units that are okay with it as well, like Victora, Ketone, Halloween Leela. These are all units that are pretty fast. Like they have high agility, they have high movement, they have high jump, and they're okay. Like they don't have a problem approaching Rangers. But units like Titus, for example, Aron, Gilgamesh to some extent, because Gilgamesh does have jump too. It's just that a lot of times I don't see people using jump 2 on Gilgamesh. Even what's her name? Agrius. Has been a huge problem for me because she's just slowly able to keep coming towards you, and it's so hard to kill her. But with Niblu, I can break her shield, I can remove whatever buffs she has, I can slow arrow her, so I'm not in. I don't feel threatened that I'm going to be taking damage from her because of the slow pace that she'll be moving towards me. So this is why. I mean, like, if the game decides, for example, that Quicken is just way too strong and we have to get rid of Quicken, okay, but there will be another meta, right? Like something will take its place, and uh, like I think it'll be units like ranged units like Nivlu and Frederica and other rangers, especially snipers, because they have these debuffs that are so powerful. And obviously, there are also going to be the counter to that, which is like fast, speedy units that can get in their face very quickly. But I think then the problem is that I think there'll be a lot of units that are that just don't have anywhere to go. You know what I mean? Like there'll be units like Titus and Auron that is going to be very hard for you to approach your enemies while taking damage slowly. Like it just it's just going to be hard. That's what I think. And I know this because last CM I went into it thinking, okay, I'm going to use Titus, and regardless of like how many matches I lose, I'm going to figure out a way to have Titus, to use Titus in the CM. And I tried many different things. I tried like, putting a lot of shields and buffs and resists and all kinds of things. And he had no problem surviving. Like surviving oncoming damage from other people, even like double quicken teams, was no problem. The problem was reaching them. He needed a way to advance and reach them before he gets killed. Even if he takes like, little damage at a time, eventually by the time he gets to them, uh, like he's dead because like they slowly chip away at his HP. So that's the problem with these units, like units like Titus and Auron. That's what I feel. So that was my strategy. Um, like this is a typical setup for me. Like I would always go in with a quicken on my Garvall, like it both quickens, and in my last um, video that I did, somebody requested, "Oh, I want to see a match where you lose." So in this match, this is a match that I lose, and I actually ended up talking to this player afterwards because I was curious that he was using Halloween Leela as his carry. Because personally, I faced a lot of ice units, so I was surprised that he could use Halloween Leela and do okay. And it was funny because for any ice teams he faced, he had the exact same strategy as I did, where Nivlu was the one that was his carry. Like even though she has garbage VCs, she still did most of the work because she's able to remove their buffs. She's able to slow them down, and by the time they reached this side of the map where they can do some damage, they're dead. So imagine how strong Nivlu would be if she had like actual VCs. Like imagine she had Federica's Dream VC and somebody else on the team had like Ifrit VC giving plus 50 attack and plus 35, well, plus 45 missile attack. That would be insane. Like she could one shot a lot more units, maybe two shot a lot more units than she could now, right? So anyway, like keep in mind, like the range units will be very strong, and unless you have a way to close the gap, uh, you know, either using like fast units, like if you use fast units with high movement and like Immortal Spirit or something, fine, you can probably reach them. But there are a lot of units that are in between that are good. Like Titus is very good. He has like so many different shields and Sentinel and stuff, but he can only move 3 spaces at a time. If I used Ketone's TMR to move him faster, that one turn he doesn't have any Sentinel, so he will die. That's what happened when I tried like last CM. So I will just keep talking as this match is going on in the background. But the reason that I usually share my strategy is because I feel that, like when I'm designing a team, I want to come up with a team that is able to handle the majority of situations faced with it. Uh, the Keenblade Ildera was not one of those because I don't really know how to handle that. Uh, and it seems just way too powerful to me. But anyway, like I'm just gonna ignore that for now and say that when I'm building a team, I'm kind of prepping it to handle most situations. Like I've already decided what I would do with double gunners, and I see myself winning if I fought them. If I fight an evade team, that's probably one of the harder matchups because I can't just kill their quickeners. I need to kill the evade team. Otherwise, Nivlu has like no chance of hitting that evade unit. So that's a bit harder because I can't just sacrifice my Garvall, but I have a way to beat them because I have a guaranteed hit unit in that Garvell, and so on and so on. So because I've already prepared for that, and I think most people in the top 10, maybe even top 20, top 50, are prepared to deal with most threats that they see, like whatever they face, and uh, like because I've already prepared for it. Whenever I see when I see a matchup, I already know a way to fight it, and so it's not difficult for me, but it might be difficult for my opponent because like they might not know my strategy unless somebody's using like a totally different strategy that I've never seen. Then I might take some getting used to and might surprise me and I might lose. But most of the time I'm already prepared for something, and because of that, I usually win. And in a way, it kind of takes the joy out of it because, like, what's the point of coming up with such a powerful team that you just win all the time, right? Like, for me, like, there isn't much tactics in it. So that's the reason why I explain my strategy because I want to say that hey, this is what I'm doing. These are my weaknesses. This is what my goal is, and this is how you can counter it. And when I face players, they already know what I'm going to do, so they adapt their strategy to counter that, and then I have a fun game because now he knows what I'm doing and he knows what to expect, and he's not blind, right? Like he knows what to do, and now I'm the one that has to strategize, and I'm the one under pressure to figure out how I'm going to approach the situation. I'm still using the same team, but now I have to change my tactics. And to me, personally, I find that that's just more enjoyment for me to do that than to just create this, unbeatable, quote unquote unbeatable. Every team has a weakness, but I'm making a team that's unbeatable in a way because like that's what I'm trying to do, but with CM, right? Um, Anyway, so that's the reason why I usually explain my strategy. But this time I wanted to see how far I can get without without explaining my strategy because obviously I will lose more matches when people know what I'm doing. So what are the weaknesses in my strategy anyway? The first weakness was that because I am going for your support unit, your quickener, you can hide the quickener. Like you can put the quickener in a spot where I can't reach it. So there is one corner on the map, the very end corner there. If I get to if you move your unit there, if you move your quickener, your Nivlu, your Phoebe, whatever, if you move it to that spot, I have a lot of trouble getting to it. Um, a second thing you can do is things like shield, things like zombie TMRs, which is Halloween Ryu's TMRs. Like those things are very difficult for me to deal with because, for example, I've sacrificed my Garval to take out your Phoebe, except I didn't really because your Phoebe just re-raised, you know. So then what do I do, right? But I didn't see too many people using it. I think I've seen it once. Actually, I think this was the only match that I saw somebody using Halloween Ryu's TMR. Um, and also shields. I've seen a lot of people using shields today, But except for today, I didn't really see so many people. I saw a lot of people just focusing all out on offense, and a lot of people also used things like Kiza's TMR and Aldoa's TMR to increase AP. And to me, it felt like a bit of a waste because there are all these AP crystals, right? Which give you that. You should either like to me it makes more sense. Well, because of my strategy, it makes more sense to go defensive. But even like you could also go offensive too if you like if your strategy is to focus on all out attack. So I don't like there's not as much need for that. Um, Now I'm using Kiza's TMR on Nivlu, but it's used like as an emergency when it's all by herself. Her and Shell are taking out the enemies that are approaching her. Then like she really needs that AP like every single turn, right? So I don't use it until then because until then I have like more important things that I want to do, which is like quicken and haste and target and slow and dispel and all those things. So I don't have one turn to waste to use the Kiza's TMR. So just keep that in mind as a tip. Maybe like hopefully that helps you. um, anyway, I think that's those are all the tips that I have. There was a couple players that I faced twice, and the second time I faced it, it was so much harder to win because they knew what I was doing. They were protecting their uh, they were protecting their quickener. They would make sure to shield the quickener. Like sometimes they would shield like their DPS unit, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't care about your DPS unit, so I would just ignore them and go and kill their quickeners. But when they knew what I was doing, it was a lot harder to win, and I actually enjoyed those matches. So you know, that's it for me, I guess. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave some comments down below what you think of the strategy, and you know, I hope to see you guys next time. Take care now.